Sezno. Alright, the Kendrick and Drake thing just reappeared owing to Iceman, etc. This is not a hate video, this is earnestly just how I see it. One theory I have regarding art is that when a person consumes a work of art, experiences a work of art, some of what happens psychologically is the consumer looks for themselves within it. But not only that they look for something in the work of art that they can relate to personally, but that they actually imagine themselves as the artist. They imagine a situation in which they have that singing voice, that they wrote those lyrics, that they put the necessary work towards the creation of this thing, that they had the mind, the intellect, the craftsmanship that produced this work of art. They project themselves as the maker of this thing. And the consumer either likes the version of themselves that they find there or they don't. I think this is part of what happens when like a song makes you cringe. Or likewise, if it moves you in a very positive way, you imagine yourself making this particular thing and presenting it to other people. For this reason, I think you can justify judging a person for their taste in art, because you can learn a great deal about a person based off of what art they find themselves favorably in and what art they don't. And this is why the Drake stans will never be able to convince us that he's better than Kendrick, because we've all decided already which of the two we would rather be. And we didn't decide that because Kendrick won. We've decided that because they've both shown us repeatedly who they are. And we as Kendrick fans have all been repeatedly moved by the versions of ourselves that we find when we consume his work. Obviously, value is not objective, and it's a pointless discussion really because it's all just fucking opinion. But what is certain is that things like streaming numbers and chart position have no bearing on the situation, because it's about whose mind would we rather have? Whose intellect and craftsmanship would we rather have? Whose perspective conforms better to the traits that we value in ourselves? Who better represents the kind of person that we'd each like to be? And these conclusions are different from person to person. But millions of people coming to a similar conclusion from their own experience of that art is not a fluke. So when like Drake stans get on a stream and say shit like, I've never been in a room where somebody said, put on that Kendrick, what bearing does that have on anything? You're not paying attention if you think that that's a valid point. That says a lot about them, but nothing whatsoever about Kendrick Lamar. That is all just fucking noise. It's blabber. If you'd rather be Drake than Kendrick, that's your right, but there is an element to expression and personality that you can't fake. We read people through their art, because you can't fake that stuff. When an artist reveals themselves to you, especially over a long career, those conclusions are hard to shake. Hopefully I made my point here.